Welcome to the world of books, one of seven worlds in Seven World Productions, a subsidiary of Angelgram Music. My name is Chino, and I am sole owner of Angelgram Music and executive director of Seven World Productions. Continuing our series In Search of Beauty, a autobiographical book of myself. This chapter is chapter 13, Janet. Hope you enjoy. Previously on In Search of Beauty, the producer at Beef and Board called me and said that Mr. Desmond's piano player was sick, and they needed a sub to play for him. I met Mr. Desmond together with the producer and Mr. Desmond's bass player and drummer. Mr. Desmond was very nice and simply said for us to pick out 30 songs that I knew from his book of 300, and that would be Monday night's concert. I had one quick run-through with the other musicians after I picked out the songs. Mr. Desmond also allowed us to put the show order together. At 1 hour before showtime, Mr. Desmond took one look at the show order and said, "Good job, let's go have some fun." The theater was sold out, and I copied the rundown from Mr. Desmond and handed him his copy as he went on stage. I don't remember much of how that night went down, but I do remember having a grand time with a standing ovation at the end and Mr. Desmond complimenting me to the audience with high praises. I did not know that night that 6 years later this man would succumb to cancer and die. Chapter 13, Janet. After touring Fiddler at the other theaters in the chain, we closed in Dallas 9 months later. The stars of the show were Mel and Katie Dacus. They played Tevye and Golda. Mel had been the famed executive producer of Fort Worth's Casa Manana, and Katie was a voice professor at TCU. They became like Mama and Papa to the entire cast. We all loved them and had a great time touring through America. Janet Hollywell was dance captain and also played the part of Yente, the matchmaker, and Grandma Zeitel. In his 5-decade actor, singer, producer career, Mel Dacus played the role of Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof an amazing 521 times. The youngest of 6 brothers and sisters, Mel Dacus was born in Fort Worth in 1923. Family members recall that his parents initially thought Mel was a tumor rather than a pregnancy, since his mother was past childbearing age at the time. His father, J.A. Dacus, was both a business manager and professor for TCU. Mel grew up in Fort Worth, mowing the campus lawns, and in the 1950s helped to plant the live oaks that now line the campus. Mr. Dacus graduated with a degree in voice in 1944, singing with the Fort Worth Opera in 1946. Service as a Marine captain during World War II, he was present the day the second American flag was raised at Iwo Jima, and the Korean War interrupted his theater career, as did a brief stint on Wall Street as a broker. He studied at the American Theater Wing in New York, where he met his wife of 50 years, Katie, a Juilliard graduate. The two returned to Texas in 1953 and never left. Mr. Dacus co-founded Casa Manana Musicals, where he was producer and general manager from 1958 to 1975, not only resurrecting performances there, but also creating the geodesic dome standing today. Our show was so successful that Dinner Theaters Incorporated decided to mount another musical with Mel and Katie. Mel played the role of Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music, and Katie played the Mother Abbess. Janet Hollywell was the dance captain again, and also a nun. I was the musical director and had to audition new children at every location. Janet's husband played the part of one of the townsfolk. Even though Janet was married to Ralph, an older man, I took a liking to her. She was a slim blonde, 4 years younger than me, and had an infectious smile. Our affection toward each other grew during the road tour of Sound of Music. By the time we reached Indianapolis's Beef and Boar Dinner Theater, we wanted to see each other more and more. This was the first time I had been with a married woman. Janet wanted to divorce Ralph and live with me. One night, Emily showed up unexpectedly from Dallas. She wanted to surprise me and stay with me for the weekend, and then fly back to Dallas. I told Janet I would take Emily to a hotel and tell her it was over between us, and she should fly home the next day. I drove Emmy to the hotel and paid for her room, and when we had gotten to her room, I quietly told her it was over between us. I was rarely home enough for her, and I had found companionship with someone else. It was very painful for me to hear Emmy sob and beg for me to stay with her. I quietly left her there, and as I walked in the corridor to the elevator, I could hear her sobbing and crying from beyond the closed hotel room door. It reminded me of the time I left Natalie and Wanda. Needless to say, Janet and I caused a scandal in the cast of Sound of Music when Ralph and Janet separated. We assured Mel and Katie, as well as Dinner Theaters Incorporated, that we would stay on the tour till the show closed. Sound of Music played for 13 months. At the end of the run, Janet and I flew to Las Vegas and got married on August the 25th, 1979, at the World Chapel of the Bells. We stayed at the old MGM, the one before the big fire. From the money that she had received as a settlement with Ralph, we were able to buy a Steinway studio upright piano. When we got back to Dallas, we moved into an apartment just a few blocks from the Country Dinner Playhouse and headquarters of Dinner Theaters Incorporated. They hired us as musical director and dance captain for another musical, The King and I, starring Ron and Irene Chapman from Los Angeles. We toured that show for 9 months, and we had to audition new children in every location. One memorable event happened in Columbus, Ohio. The Country Dinner Playhouse all had box kite stages that lowered in the center with audience seats arena style in the round. At the beginning of Act 2, for the king and his throne, together with a huge gong, were lowered to ground level during the honor act. I was located just off one of the sides of the stage playing the piano. As the stage descended, a huge sonic boom occurred. The piano began to wander, and the steel pipes for the stage began to wobble as if they were made of putty. Ron Chapman, the king, stared at me as the stage lowered precariously and the piano kept wandering away from me. I just stood up and kept right on playing, never missing a single beat of note of the honor act. After about a long 20 seconds, everything stabilized and the stage landed safely, and we went on with the show as if nothing had happened. Afterwards, we learned from the theater manager that an earthquake had occurred in Covington, Kentucky, on the opposite side of Cincinnati, and we could feel that earthquake all the way to Columbus. Ron said that he and Irene had performed in Los Angeles during a few quakes, but that this was the first time he saw a piano player stand up and keep playing no matter what. He congratulated me on keeping up the tradition that the show must go on. We finished up the run of King and I in Dallas at the Country Dinner Playhouse in the spring of 1981. We opened Hello Dolly a month after that and played the show through the summer and fall only in Dallas. Dinner Theaters Incorporated had broken up their chain and sold off the theaters around the country, so Hello Dolly did not tour and closed at the end of 1981. It was also during this year that I lost my brother to a car accident. My brother Steve, who had played piano as good or even better at times than I, lost his life one early morning in October, coming home from a playing gig. He fell asleep at the wheel and struck a railroad embankment at 60 miles an hour and was killed instantly. That was a very sad time in my life, and to this day I think of him often. In 1982, John Wall, the producer at our rival dinner theater, Granny's Dinner Theater, called us and asked us to come and perform in his new show, Man of La Mancha, starring John Raitt, Bonnie Raitt's father. John was born in Santa Ana, California. He got his start in theater as a high school student at Fullerton High School in Fullerton, California. While there, he played in several drama productions in the Plummer Auditorium. He sang in the chorus of the Desert Song. A few years before he died, John once again came back to the Plummer to see a rehearsal, visit students, and recollect his beginnings. He is on the school's Hall of Fame for his accomplishments. He is best known for his stage roles in the musicals Carousel, Oklahoma, The Pajama Game, Carnival in Flanders, Three Wishes for Jamie, and A Joyful Noise, in which he set the standard for virile, handsome, strong-voiced leading men during the golden age of the Broadway musical. His only leading film role was in the 1957 movie version of The Pajama Game opposite Doris Day. On television, he was seen many times on the Bell Telephone Hour. A clip of a television performance of John singing the final section of the song Soliloquy from Carousel is included in the documentary film Broadway, The Golden Age, by the legends who were there. In 1957, also for television, he and Mary Martin recreated their starring roles in the national touring version of Annie Get Your Gun. On January 26, 1961, he appeared in the last season of NBC's The Ford Show, starring Tennessee Ernie Ford. In addition, John made several studio cast recordings of Broadway musicals, including Oklahoma as Curly and Showboat as Gaylord Revenall. In 1945, John Raitt was one of the recipients of the first Theatre World Award for his debut performance in Carousel. In 1965, he starred in the 20th anniversary production of the show at Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. In 1981, he found out that his high school sweetheart was widowed. Having recently divorced from his second wife, he phoned her. Having played Zorba, I believe in grabbing at life, he recalled. So I called her, and this sweet voice answered. I'm free now, I told her, and I'm coming to dinner. And then they married. John appeared in a 1996 cameo role in Season 1, Episode 12 of Frozen Dick, of Third Rock from the Sun, in which he sings a portion of the title song from Oklahoma. I was very excited about working with the man who made the soliloquy from Carousel famous on Broadway. Man of La Mancha played to capacity crowds for several months. Janet was the choreographer and I was the musical director. At the conclusion of the 3-month run, we had a cast party where John sang the soliloquy and I accompanied him on the piano. That experience is vividly etched into my memory as John leaned over to me at the end of the performance and said, "You made the piano sound like a full orchestra. Bravo." John Raitt died on February 20th, 2005 at his home in Pacific Palisades, California, from complications due to pneumonia, aged 88. He has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for live theater. He is the father of singer Bonnie Raitt, who proved herself to be the consummate showbiz professional by going on stage for a concert in Indio, California, just days after his death, and former father-in-law of Michael O'Keefe. His grandson is Bay Raitt, the creator of Gollum's Face for the Lord of the Rings film trilogy. The next show that we performed at Grammys was Damn Yankees, starring Misty Rowe and Harvey Martin. Misty Rowe is an actress most known for portraying the perky, lisping blonde on the American television series Hee Haw for 19 years. She also starred in the show's 1978 spin-off Hee Haw Honeys, cast with then-newcomer Kathy Lee Gifford, then known as Kathy Lee Johnson, prior to her marriage to Frank Gifford, as the singing daughters of diner owners Lulu Roman and Kenny Price. It also spawned a national roadshow. She and several of the Honeys were notable for performing in cleavage-inducing halter tops, Daisy Duke shorts, and country-style mini dresses. She is also known for portraying Marilyn Monroe in 2 films, Minnie Pearl in another, Maid Marian in Mel Brooks' When Things Were Rotten, Patsy Cline in a Broadway musical, being a 1976 Playboy model, and appearing in early seasons of the classic TV sitcom Happy Days as Wendy, a car hop at Arnold's Drive-In. Other films include National Lampoon's Class Reunion and Meatballs 2. A mid-80s TV appearance included Airwolf as a country and western singer. She also appeared for a time on the game show The Crosswits. Harvey B. Martin was a Dallas Cowboy football player, and I had the challenge of teaching him how to sing "Whatever Lola Wants, Lola Gets." I was amazed how well Harvey was able to pull off that song. He received thunderous applause each night. He and Misty were a good combination, and the audiences in Dallas loved them. I was saddened to hear that on Christmas Eve 2001, Harvey died from pancreatic cancer at the young age of 51. In the spring of 1983, Granny's produced The Fantastics. The lead character of the show, El Gallo, is the storyteller who tells the story about love between a young man and a young woman who live next door to each other. Fate brought John Gary as the lead character with his musical director as pianist. The show called for 2 pianos and 2 harps as accompaniment. As resident musical director for the theater, I got to play the second piano. I never thought that I would perform with the man I met 14 years earlier in Ohio. John Gary Strader started singing at the age of 5. He joined his older sister, Shirley Strader. At the age of 9, he won a 3-year scholarship to the prestigious Cathedral School of St. John in Manhattan. He auditioned for the choir master, Norman Coke Jeffcott. At the age of 10, John Gary had won 2 pins of distinction from the American Theater Wing Merchant Seamen's Club for the Stage Door Canteen. At age 12, he toured the southern states with Frank Pursley, a blind pianist for the Mason Conservatory. John sang in movies, on Broadway, had his own television show, and appeared at Carnegie Hall with numerous symphony orchestras. He appeared 30 times as a guest on The Tonight Show with Jack Paar, Steve Allen, and Johnny Carson. He traveled across the U.S. and Canada with approximately 40 concerts per year. For 6 years, he gave community concerts in over 400 cities and towns. He was a stylized singer who recorded 23 albums for RCA Victor Records. Prior to national stardom, John appeared on local New Orleans television station WDSU-TV as a regular feature on the noontime television show Midday. He also appeared at the Blue Room of the Roosevelt, later the Fairmont Hotel. He performed the John Gary Show, 3 15-minute shows a week, presaging his national CBS show a decade later, a summer replacement for the Danny Kaye Show. John was considered by many to be one of the best crooners due to his extraordinary breath control and tone quality of his voice. He had an exceptionally wide range of 3 octaves plus. His singing ranged from robust baritone to a high sweet tenor, often in the same song. Many popular songs at the time were suited to his intimate style. In 1960, he joined ASCAP and composed several popular songs. He had 5 songs that made the adult contemporary or easy listening chart in Billboard magazine. The song Cold, released in 1967, was his most successful, topping the chart for 2 weeks at the end of that year. Despite reaching 1, the song failed to crack the Billboard Hot 20 pop chart. In 1968, he voiced John Alden in the Rankin-Bass animated TV special The Mouse on the Mayflower. John had moved to Richardson, Texas, and married that lady I remember seeing those many years previous. Lee and John invited the entire cast to their house for the cast party, and it was to be the first of many visits. While working at the theater, I also took on some voice students as a coach. I would help them prepare songs for auditions at the Dallas Summer Musicals and the Casa Mañana in Fort Worth. One interesting student I coached in the spring of 1983 was a female who kept talking about her boyfriend, who was a married man, a politician from Arkansas. She said that someday this boyfriend would be President of the United States. I did not take her seriously, and after about a month of coaching, she went back to Arkansas, and I never saw Jennifer Flowers again. The summer of 1983 would become a defining moment in my life. Judy Houghton from Charlie's Place in Cedar Point would re-enter my life in a very profound way. If you like this episode, click like and add your comments. Better still, why don't you subscribe if you haven't already so that you may receive email notifications of future episodes. Also, check out our other worlds at Seven World Productions: the world of art, the world of faith, the world of family, the world of food, the world of games, and the world of music. Go and be inspired.